Imagine waking up one morning and realizing years have quietly slipped by. The goals you once swore you'd chase are now shadows in the distance. The vision of the life you dreamed of feels less like something achievable and more like a fantasy your younger self believed in. You get dressed, go through the motions, and live each day on repeat. You wait for the right moment, for the perfect timing, for something outside yourself to shift. But nothing does. Nothing changes. Why does this happen? Why do some people take bold, decisive action while others remain frozen, circling inside the same loop of hesitation and inaction? Today, we're going to confront an invisible force that sabotages countless lives. It doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. Instead, it creeps in quietly, blending into your thoughts until it feels natural. That force is passivity, the pattern of standing still while life marches forward. Passivity doesn't look like a problem at first. In fact, it can disguise itself as patience, carefulness, or simply waiting for the right time. But beneath that disguise, it's a poison, a slow one. It keeps you in situations that no longer fulfill you. It whispers that you should play it safe, even when you know deep down action is the only path forward. And the most dangerous part is that most people never recognize they're caught in it. They don't see it until it's too late, until entire years have passed. But you don't have to remain trapped. Once you uncover how passivity works, and more importantly, how to dismantle it, you gain the power to unlock a future filled with movement, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. So, where does this passivity come from? Why do some people keep moving forward while others stay stuck? Psychologists have been studying this for decades, and one of the most famous explanations comes from Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology. He introduced the concept of learned helplessness. In his well-known experiments, Seligman exposed dogs to repeated negative situations they couldn't escape from. Eventually, the dogs gave up, even when a path to freedom was later presented. They had learned to be helpless. The lesson for us is clear. When people face repeated failure, rejection, or discouragement, they too begin to believe their efforts are pointless. That belief seeps into the mind, shapes behavior, and soon it defines reality. But failure isn't the only cause. There's something even more deceptive: comfort. Comfort doesn't sting. Comfort doesn't frighten. Comfort feels good, and that's precisely why it's dangerous. Think about how easy it is to fall into routine, even if that routine drains you. Even if you know you're not truly happy, your brain is wired to seek predictability and avoid risk. For our ancestors, this instinct meant survival. But in the modern world, it backfires. It convinces you to settle. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years. And before you realize it, the clock has run and nothing has changed. That's the quiet tragedy of passivity. It doesn't announce itself with alarms. It doesn't crash into your life with sirens. It waits in silence, whispering excuses that sound reasonable. You'll start tomorrow. You're not ready yet. You just need more time. But here's the harsh truth. There is no perfect time. There's only now. And every moment you delay, the harder it becomes to act. So, let's ask a deeper question. What's the real cost of passivity? What does it steal from you? The Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl gave us an answer in his classic work, Man's Search for Meaning. He argued that the deepest drive in human beings isn't pleasure, as Freud once suggested, nor power, as Nietzsche believed. It's meaning. Without meaning, we drift, lost, empty, stagnant. And nothing strips meaning from life faster than passivity. Think back to the last time you felt alive. Was it while hesitating, avoiding risks, and staying comfortable? Or was it when you stepped beyond your fear, took a leap, spoke up, or pushed yourself into the unknown? Meaning is not stumbled upon while waiting. It's created in action. It's born in the moments when you choose courage over hesitation. But if passivity is so harmful, why do we still fall into it? Why do we keep waiting even when we know action is necessary? The answer lies in something subtle but powerful: the comfort trap. At first glance, comfort seems harmless, even desirable. Who doesn't want to feel safe and at ease? But the paradox is that comfort is the enemy of growth. The more comfortable you are, the less likely you are to take risks. And without risks, there is no progress. Consider this. How many people stay in jobs they hate simply because it's easier than starting over? How many remain in relationships that no longer bring happiness because change feels overwhelming? This is the comfort trap at work. It convinces you that the familiar is safer than the unknown. But in reality, the greatest regrets in life are not about the mistakes we made. They're about the chances we never took. Our brains are hardwired to avoid uncertainty. For our ancestors, that instinct helped them survive. For us, it keeps us locked inside safe but unfulfilling lives. Instead of avoiding danger, we avoid opportunity. And here's the reality. No one ever achieved greatness by staying comfortable. Every person who has accomplished something extraordinary has had to face discomfort, uncertainty, and fear. The difference between those who move forward and those who remain stuck isn't intelligence or talent. It's the willingness to act despite fear. That brings us to an important question. How do you break free from passivity's grip? How do you stop waiting and start moving? One strategy comes from Mel Robbins, who introduced the 5-second rule. The rule is simple. Whenever you feel the urge to act, count backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then move. Don't let your brain talk you out of it. Don't give fear a chance to creep in. Act before hesitation has time to grow roots. This technique works because it interrupts the cycle of overthinking. It forces you to cross the gap between intention and action. But techniques are not enough. There's something deeper: discipline. Most people wait for motivation before they act. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. If you depend on it, you'll always be at the mercy of your moods. Discipline, however, is steady. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains this brilliantly. Success doesn't come from one massive change. It comes from small, consistent actions that compound over time. If you improve by just 1% each day, the results will eventually be extraordinary. But passivity works in the opposite way. Tiny moments of hesitation and avoidance also compound, until one day, you look back and realize you built a life of regret. And here's something most people never notice. Passivity doesn't just show up in the big decisions. It's in the small ones too. It's the silence when you wanted to speak up in a meeting. It's the delay before starting a workout. It's the hour lost scrolling through social media instead of working on something meaningful. Every small act of hesitation strengthens a habit of inaction. Every moment of passivity makes it harder to move forward. That's why self-awareness is a starting point. You have to notice where passivity is sneaking in. Ask yourself, what am I postponing? Where am I letting comfort dictate my choices? What would my life look like if I stopped hesitating and started acting? But awareness alone isn't enough, because lurking beneath passivity is a force even more dangerous, something most people never even recognize. It's not fear. It's not laziness. It's not even a lack of motivation. It's something far more deceptive. It's identity paralysis. Identity paralysis happens when you unconsciously define yourself by your current limitations instead of your potential. It's the quiet belief, this is just who I am, or I've always been this way. And when you believe your personality and habits are fixed, change feels impossible. Think about it. If you see yourself as someone who's bad at discipline, how likely are you to follow through on new habits? If you believe you're not a natural leader, will you ever step up when the moment calls for confidence? If you've convinced yourself you're bad at making decisions, will you ever take control of your life? Your identity shapes your actions, and your actions shape your future. That's why so many people remain stuck. Not because they can't change, but because they don't believe they can change. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on mindset revealed that people operate from one of two lenses, a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. With a fixed mindset, you believe your abilities are unchangeable. Challenges feel like threats. Failure feels like proof of your limits. With a growth mindset, you believe your abilities can be developed through effort and learning. Challenges feel like opportunities. Failure becomes a teacher. Passivity thrives in a fixed mindset. The moment you believe your circumstances define you, you stop trying to change them. But the moment you shift into a growth mindset, when you realize skills, habits, and traits can be developed, passivity begins to lose its grip. And here's the key. Real change doesn't begin with goals. It begins with identity. As James Clear explains, instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. If you want to be disciplined, make the choices a disciplined person would make. If you want to be confident, act like a confident person would act. Every small action is a vote for the person you're becoming. That's why action comes before motivation. Most people think they need to feel ready before they act. But it's the opposite. Action creates readiness. Action builds momentum. When you take even the smallest step forward, you shift your identity. You start to see yourself differently. And that shift becomes a fuel for more action. But identity paralysis isn't the only barrier. There's also emotional resistance, the discomfort that rises up when you think about changing. Maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's fear of judgment. Maybe it's fear of leaving behind an old version of yourself. Neuroscience shows that your brain reacts to psychological threats the same way it reacts to physical ones. Step outside your comfort zone, and your brain interprets it as danger. The amygdala, the part responsible for fear, lights up. That's why action feels so hard. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is trying to keep you safe. But safety is not the same as living. And here's the breakthrough. You don't need to eliminate fear before you act. You just need to act anyway. Every time you take a step despite fear, you retrain your brain. You teach it that discomfort is not danger. You build psychological flexibility, the ability to move forward even when you don't feel fully ready. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. If passivity is born from mindset, identity, and emotional resistance, then how do we truly break free from it? The answer lies in something most people avoid because it feels heavy, even unfair at first. But in truth, it's the most liberating shift you can ever make. It's called radical responsibility. Radical responsibility means accepting, fully and without excuses, that your life is in your hands. Every choice, every action, and every delay is shaping your future. No more waiting for someone to rescue you. No more blaming circumstances, other people, or even your past. It means realizing that no one is coming. And while that truth can feel uncomfortable, it's also the key to reclaiming your power. Most people resist this because responsibility removes excuses. It means you can't hide behind stories like, I didn't have a chance, or things never worked out for me. But once you embrace it, everything changes. You stop waiting for the world to hand you opportunities, and you start creating them. Now, here's where people often go wrong. They think taking responsibility means figuring everything out at once, crafting the perfect plan, building unstoppable confidence, eliminating all uncertainty before they act. But that's another trap. Action doesn't come after clarity. Action creates clarity. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, once explained how he makes decisions. He said that if you wait until you have 100% certainty before acting, you'll always be too late. In life, you'll never have perfect information. You'll never feel perfectly ready. But if you can make a decision with even 70% of the information available, you should move. Because the act of moving teaches you what works, what doesn't, and where to go next. That's why the people we admire, the ones who build companies, change the world, or create lives of meaning, aren't necessarily the smartest or luckiest. They're the ones who act despite uncertainty. They start before they feel ready. They take small steps, learn from feedback, and adjust as they go. But here's the stumbling block. Fear of failure. It paralyzes countless people. They're so afraid of mistakes that they'd rather do nothing than risk getting it wrong. But here's the irony. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a step on the road to success. Thomas Edison, after thousands of failed attempts at creating the light bulb, famously said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's the mindset of every successful person throughout history. They see failure not as a verdict on who they are, but as information, as feedback. And the only true failure is refusing to try. So, how do we put all of this into action? How do we stop being trapped by passivity and start living with purpose and momentum? The path isn't complicated, but it does demand courage and consistency. First, abandon the belief that you need motivation before you act. Motivation doesn't precede action. It follows it. When you take a step, however small, energy follows. Confidence follows. Momentum follows. Action generates motivation. Second, redefine your identity. Stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates or someone who lacks discipline. That identity is not fixed. Your past behavior doesn't lock you into your future. Decide today that you are someone who takes action. Prove it by the smallest behaviors. Each action is a vote for your new identity. Third, lower the barrier to action. Many people never begin because they imagine they must leap across mountains. But lasting change isn't about massive leaps. It's about consistent, small steps. If a task feels overwhelming, shrink it. Want to start a business? Spend 10 minutes researching. Want to get fit? Do one push-up. Want to write a book? Write one paragraph. Big outcomes are nothing more than small steps, compounded. Fourth, make decisions faster. Overthinking is passivity's ally. The longer you hesitate, the more fear grows. Give yourself a window, a rule. Maybe it's 5 seconds. Maybe 5 minutes. Maybe one day. But once that window closes, make the choice and move forward. You'll learn more from a wrong decision acted upon than from endless hesitation over the right one. Life rewards movement. Opportunities don't wait. Time doesn't pause. And the future is always being shaped by the decisions you make today. So, the real question is, will you keep waiting or will you act? Because the choice you make now will echo into your future. But before we move forward, let's go deeper into the subtle ways passivity manipulates you. Because it doesn't only paralyze you in big moments, it infiltrates daily life. Think about your phone. How many hours are swallowed by scrolling? Each time you choose distraction over creation, you reinforce passivity. Or consider conversations where you wanted to speak your truth, but held back out of fear of judgment. Each silence cements hesitation into your identity. These tiny moments stack. They shape your destiny in the same way mountains are shaped by grains of sand. This is why awareness is so crucial. You can't fight what you can't see. Begin observing yourself like a scientist. Notice the micro moments of hesitation. Notice when you say, "I'll do it tomorrow." Notice when comfort wins over courage. Awareness is the first crack in passivity's armor. But awareness must be paired with action. Otherwise, it becomes just another form of overthinking. Once you see the hesitation, act. Even a small action is a victory. Each time you move despite the urge to delay, you weaken passivity's grip. Now let's zoom out. Beyond psychology, beyond habits, beyond strategies, there's a deeper truth about life itself. Time is moving whether you act or not. The clock doesn't stop because you hesitate. Every second you spend postponing is a second you never get back. The opportunities of today will not be the same tomorrow. And here's the paradox. Waiting feels safe. But in reality, waiting is the most dangerous choice of all, because it gives the illusion of control while silently stealing your future. You're not avoiding risk. You're choosing a different risk, the risk of regret. Think of people in their later years reflecting back. Do you know what their biggest regrets usually are? It's not the mistakes they made. It's the chances they didn't take, the words they never spoke, the dreams they buried under fear and comfort. So let's be brutally honest. If you don't make a change, what will your life look like 5 years from now? 10 years? Will you still be waiting for the perfect moment? Still stuck in routines you dislike? Still dreaming instead of living? That vision should terrify you more than failure ever could. Because failure hurts for a moment. Regret hurts for a lifetime. But here's the empowering side. The future is not yet written. Right now, in this very moment, you hold the pen. Each decision is ink. Each action is a line. You can rewrite the story starting today. But only if you act. And don't misunderstand. This doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow, and relationships overnight, or flip your life upside down in one dramatic leap. It means committing to movement, to momentum. It means refusing to stay still. Because action doesn't just change your external circumstances, it changes you. Every time you act, you reinforce a new identity. You prove to yourself, I am someone who moves. That proof builds confidence. That confidence fuels bigger actions. And soon, the cycle of passivity is replaced with a cycle of momentum. But there's still one more layer to uncover, one final trap that keeps people paralyzed. It's the false belief that courage means the absence of fear. People think they must wait until they no longer feel afraid before they move. That day never comes. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. Fear will always exist at the edge of growth. If you're not afraid, you're not stretching yourself. If you're not uncertain, you're not evolving. The question is not, how do I eliminate fear? The question is, will I act anyway? Each time you do, fear loses its power. You train yourself to step forward even with shaking hands, even with doubts whispering in your ear. And slowly, what once terrified you becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes second nature. This is how transformation works, not in giant leaps, but in repeated acts of courage. So, let's return to you. What's the decision you've been postponing? What's the dream you've been waiting on? What's the conversation, the habit, the leap you've delayed because of fear, comfort, or the illusion of not being ready? Picture it clearly. And now imagine yourself 5 years from now, having taken no action. How does that feel? Now imagine yourself 5 years from now, having taken the first small step today. How does that feel? The difference between those two futures is one decision, one act, one choice. Passivity tells you to wait. Courage tells you to move. The question is, who will you listen to? The truth is, everything we've explored so far leads to one undeniable conclusion. Life rewards those who move, not those who wait, not those who overthink, not those who hope for the perfect moment, but those who step forward despite uncertainty. Passivity is seductive because it feels safe, but safety is an illusion. The world is always moving. Time is always passing. And in the end, inaction is itself a decision, one that quietly shapes your destiny. But once you understand this, once you see the invisible chains of hesitation for what they are, you gain the power to break them. And breaking them doesn't require a grand, cinematic transformation. It requires simple, consistent choices made in the present moment. So how do you begin? Let's piece everything together into a practical path forward. Step 1. Stop waiting for motivation. Too many people believe they must feel inspired before they act. But inspiration is fickle. It comes and goes. If you depend on it, your life will always be dictated by moods. Instead, adopt the discipline of movement. Commit to action first, and let motivation catch up later. Step 2. Rewrite your identity. If you continue seeing yourself as a person who hesitates, you'll keep hesitating. If you see yourself as someone who lacks willpower, you'll keep proving that story true. Identity is not fixed. Begin acting as the person you want to become. With each small choice, cast a vote for your future self. Step 3. Embrace small wins. You don't need to conquer mountains today. You only need to take the next step. Big goals can be paralyzing. Shrink them until they're manageable. Want to run a marathon? Start with a 5-minute jog. Want to launch a business? Begin with a single idea written down. Want to build confidence? Speak once when you'd normally stay quiet. Small steps create momentum. Momentum builds into transformation. Step 4. Decide quickly. Overthinking feeds fear. The longer you deliberate, the heavier the decision feels. Train yourself to act within windows. 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 1 day depending on the scale. Then move. Remember, a wrong choice acted upon often teaches you more than endless hesitation over the perfect one. Step 5. Accept failure as feedback. Every misstep is information. Every setback is a teacher. Failure doesn't define you. It refines you. The only true failure is doing nothing. And step 6. Take radical responsibility. Refuse to hand your power to excuses, circumstances, or other people. Your life is yours. Your choices are yours. And your future will be shaped by the actions you take, or fail to take, today. Now, let's pause here. Because sometimes, hearing advice feels overwhelming. You might be thinking, yes, I understand all of this, but my situation is different. My fears are heavier. My challenges are harder. My life is more complicated. And in a way, you're right. Your life is unique. Your struggles are real. But that doesn't change the universal truth. Action is always the key. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. The principle is the same. Small, consistent choices compound into transformation. The hardest part isn't the work, it's beginning. And here's something liberating. You don't need to see the entire path to take the first step. Imagine standing in the dark with a flashlight. You can't see the end of the road. But as you move, the light moves with you. Each step reveals the next. That's how action works. Waiting for the full map keeps you frozen. Walking forward, even blindly, reveals the way. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. Because action isn't just about building success, money, or achievements. At its core, action is about meaning. Remember Viktor Frankl's insight. Humans don't live for pleasure or power alone. We live for meaning. And meaning is created through courage, responsibility, and contribution. You can't think your way into a meaningful life. You can only live your way into one. Meaning is forged in the moments you stretch yourself, when you step into challenges, when you act for something larger than comfort. That's why passivity feels so empty. Because when you wait, when you stay safe, you cut yourself off from meaning. And a life without meaning is not really life. It's existence. So, what does a life of action look like? It doesn't mean constant hustle or reckless leaps. It means alignment. It means consistently acting in ways that match your values and goals. It means building habits that support the person you want to become. It means choosing courage over comfort again and again, in big moments and small. And here's the beautiful truth. Action creates confidence. People often think confidence comes first, and then you act. But it's the opposite. Confidence is built through repeated action. Each time you prove to yourself, I can do this, your belief grows. And over time, fear loses its power. Think of a child learning to walk. They don't wait until they're confident to take their first step. They take messy, shaky steps. They fall. They stumble. But with each attempt, they grow stronger. That's how human beings learn anything. Through action first, confidence second. Now, let's bring this to your life. Imagine two futures. In the first, you continue as you are. You keep hesitating. You keep postponing. 5 years pass. 10 years. Nothing changes, except the weight of regret grows heavier. You look back and realize opportunities have slipped away. That dream, that relationship, that path you once wanted, it's gone. And there's no rewinding the clock. In the second future, you decide today to take action. Small steps at first, then bigger ones. Fear doesn't vanish, but you move anyway. And as you move, opportunities open, confidence grows. Life becomes richer, fuller, more aligned with your deepest values. You don't escape challenges, no one does, but you face them with strength because you know you're capable of acting. Which future do you want? Because the truth is, the difference between those two futures is not luck, talent, or timing. It's a choice made in the present, a choice to move or to wait. So I'll ask you again, what will you do next? Will you continue to postpone, to tell yourself tomorrow, to surrender to the comfort trap? Or will you act today, right now, in even the smallest way? Maybe that means writing down your goals. Maybe it means having the conversation you've avoided. Maybe it means taking the first step toward a dream you've delayed for years. Whatever it is, do it now. Because the cost of waiting is your life slipping away in silence. And the reward of action is a life of meaning, momentum, and possibility. The choice is yours. Remember this. Passivity is invisible, but its consequences are not. It robs you of years, of opportunities, of meaning. And breaking free doesn't require perfection. It requires one thing, movement. Life is not waiting. Time is not pausing. The future is being written in this very moment. So stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop postponing. Take action. Because the moment you do, everything begins to change.